Hi, Chris Martin here. You know, 6 generations, a lot of history with my family's business. Several books have been written, but unfortunately, now we have tremendous records. We have an archive room filled with records about how many guitars we made and what were the specifications. But there was no written narrative about why or how did this happen. And so oftentimes we have to go back and try and put the story together as new information becomes available. And so the one thing I'll share with you is, when I was living with my grandfather, working in the shop in between stints at college, in the evening after dinner, we'd retire to his den. He loved to watch basketball. We'd watch basketball, and I would ask him questions about the history of the company. And my one big regret are all the questions I forgot to ask him. But I remember one evening I said, "Pop, we've got the O, the double O, the triple O," and all of a sudden this term Dreadnought shows up. Where did that come from? And he sort of matter-of-factly said, "Oh, my father was a history buff." And it is a term that he used to acknowledge the British battleship, the Dreadnought, and its significance during World War I to keep peace on Earth. I was very fortunate to be asked to be the chairman of NAMM. And one of the jobs of the vice chairman of NAMM is to go and select a location for the NAMM board meeting. So tough duty, Diane and Claire and I had to go to Hawaii to pick the appropriate resort to stay at for the Hawaii NAMM trip. And as I was going, Dick Boak said, "Chris, you're going to Honolulu." I said, "Yes, we're going to Honolulu to look for a hotel for the NAMM board meeting." "Dick, you remember you were on the NAMM board?" "Yeah, I remember the Hawaii trip. That was great." He said, "I'd really like you to try and find some time to meet a fellow that has a compelling story to tell about why he thinks that there was a bridge between the triple O size Martin guitar and the Dreadnought." So I get to Hawaii, I contact Kylan Reese. I said, "Come on over, we're at the resort." Dick says, "You have a story to tell." Well, he comes over, very excited, and he had a story to tell. And his story was that he believes that a gentleman named Major Kealakai helped us to go from the triple O to the Dreadnought. I said, "Well, okay, tell me the story." And the more he talked, I'm like, "Yeah, we were all aware of the Kealakai guitar, kind of anecdotally." And it's like, it's quite possible that one guitar, one off, was, kind of that missing link in the evolution of the Martin guitar from the triple O to the Dreadnought. So I said, we have to make one of these. And we made one, and Kylan was so excited, and we got it to him, and he's done a lot of work with it. There's stuff out on YouTube about the history of that Major Kealakai guitar that I'm not going to get into. He was a character. You got to look him up on the internet. So I thought, there's something about this guitar that's significant in the terms of the evolution of the Western guitar. So now we go to the NAMM board meeting in Honolulu. And of course, I was very fortunate. I get the suite, right? Because I'm NAMM chairman at that point. And we had a little cocktail party in the suite for the new incoming board members. And we were very fortunate. Kylan helped to arrange for a local Hawaiian-based musician to come and play for us playing this guitar. And one of my fellow NAMM members, who's a Martin dealer, said, "Chris, what is that?" And I explained, this is the Major Kealakai reproduction guitar that we believe is the missing link between the triple O and the Dreadnought. And I embellished the story a little bit, and he looked at me and said, "I want one of those." I'm like, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, I like that story. I want one of those for my store." And so he bought the first one, and I thought, maybe he's not the only Martin dealer or the only Martin fan that will appreciate the story behind this guitar. And we've been very fortunate. We've sold now maybe 35 or 40 of them. And I was thinking to myself, looks a lot like a Martin guitar, right? It's like an older Martin guitar. Got the square slotted headstock. It's got that, this is kind of like a 4-0. It's like a triple O that got bigger everywhere. And it's got this monster bridge. And this was Major Kealakai's idea. Bless him. It's possible that he was looking at this guitar as a dual-purpose guitar. Not only playing like this traditionally, but of course, because it was back in the day when Hawaiian music was pop music. And so this guitar could also be played if you raise the nut, lap style, get that slack key sound. And so in that case, this bridge may have actually worked. Honestly, that bridge is a lot of work. It's a lot of work in the factory to make. It's a lot of work in the factory to install properly. And it's not traditional. That's the one thing, if you just saw that, you would not, if you didn't see the headstock and the shape and the brand inside, I don't think the first thing you would think is, oh, that's got to be a bridge on a Martin guitar. So I thought, what if, instead of only making one of these, what if we had continued to make them and they evolved? What possibly could that guitar have evolved into? And with the help of some of my colleagues in the shop, we decided it might have evolved into something with a smaller bridge, a smaller Martin-style bridge. So this is it's an embellished pyramid bridge, which we used before the belly bridge. So it's got a couple little pyramids. It has a belly. So this is Major Kealakai 2. We're gonna run out these, and then we're gonna transition as if it happened naturally, because what's next is the Dreadnought. Again, we don't know. How did it go from that to this? I wasn't in the room. I don't know. I know that the original Kealakai was sourced through Ditson. Ditson was our biggest and best dealer back in the day at that time. And Harry Hunt was our contact person at Ditson. And so the story is that from this idea, Harry Hunt and my great-grandfather and my grandfather got together and said, you know, there might be a market for a big guitar. How it went from that shape to this pear shape, I don't know. Now, initially, of course, back in the day, they started out as 12-fret guitars. The unfortunate thing about the original Ditson Dreadnoughts is that they were introduced right as the Great Depression was starting to crush the economy. And it was a big guitar, bigger than anything we'd ever made, bigger than anything really the market had ever seen. And a lot of people didn't know what to make of it. It's like, wow, what the heck is that thing? It is not a balanced guitar at all. It is a predominantly bassy guitar. In fact, they were initially marketed as a bass guitar, not because it had 4 strings, but because it was predominantly bassy. And during the Depression, Ditson goes bust. Our best customer's out of business. What are we going to do? And we were making, at that time, several unique Ditson models, including a really charming Dreadnought-shaped Ditson ukulele that we have one in the museums, just charming. And so we said, well, no one else is buying these other instruments that we were making exclusively for Ditson. We have to discontinue them, but you know what? Let's keep this Dreadnought in the line. Let's keep it in the line, see what happens. So instead of putting the Ditson name back here, we put the Martin name on it. And it didn't sell very well until the country artists got a hold of it. And this is exactly what they were looking for, except they wanted the modern neck. And so fairly quickly, we took this, squared off the shoulders like we did on the Triple O, put a 14-fret neck on with steel strings, and the rest is history.